Good afternoon and welcome to Jiggers' Place. I'm your host, Kevin Bemel, and we are here every other Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time to just relax, have a cocktail, and talk about all those things not related to our business and professional lives. So today, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite things, the Maltese Falcon, and discussing, so which is better, the book or the movie, right? This is a perennial discussion among book and movie fans, and hopefully we're going to get some interesting thoughts about that for you this afternoon. So in honor of our subject, the Maltese Falcon, so while people who know Humphrey Bogart, who is the actor best known for his version of the Maltese Falcon, he drinks Bacardi rum in the Maltese Falcon, not bourbon, which seems like he drinks in every other movie he's ever been in. And so I looked for a cocktail to make with Bacardi rum, and I came up with something called a Blood Orange Negroni. Now, why blood orange? Well, we are talking about film noir, and so, you know, blood orange seemed like the right theme to go with it. And, you know, rum, orange definitely go together. And so this sounded like something that would be worth trying out. So I have my rack rum. This is Bacardi white rum. And the other things in this particular version of the Negroni are Campari, which is a bitter liqueur. You know, Campari is very, very famous. This is a kosher bottle of Campari for those of you saying, wait a minute, I thought you keep kosher. Yes, I do. This comes all the way from Israel. And then blood orange liqueur, hence the name Blood Orange Negroni. This happens to be Cointreau. Now, Cointreau is an orange liqueur. This happens to be the blood orange version of it. And what's nice about using Cointreau, aside from it comes from France, and you all know I'm a Francophile, I suppose, and it was founded in 1849, is in another fantastic Humphrey Bogart movie, Casablanca. The other love interest of Ilsa, and I'm going up on him, he's the underground leader. So he orders a Cointreau when he's at the bar, at Rick's Place, the bar in Casablanca. So this kind of has a reminiscence of Humphrey Bogart and what many consider to be his greatest movie. And then orange bitters, and my favorite orange bitters is Stirrings. This happens to be blood orange bitters, which is even better than orange bitters. And if you've never had Stirrings, all I can say is just I can smell it. It's just, I don't know. It has a wonderful, wonderful smell. Okay, so we're gonna make this Negroni. I've got my little recipe here. We're gonna start out with an ounce of white rum. Let's find my, here we go. Yeah, okay. Okay, we're gonna make this in a mixing glass. Okay, so an ounce of white rum, and then a half ounce of Campari, which sounds a little bit like Volare, but it's not at all the same thing. Although they are both Italian, right? For those of you who know the famous Dean Martin song, Volare, oh, hey Campari, oh, I know. You're going to stop watching the show now because I'm singing. I'm sorry. I will stop singing. Okay, and a half ounce of the Cointreau Blood Orange Liqueur. Now, by the way, it looks like it's red, right? Because but the Cointreau is actually clear. Okay, so the color is coming from the Campari. it does look kind of bloody. Okay, and then just a couple of dashes of the orange bitters. One, two. Okay, maybe a little bit too much, but that's okay. Okay, and then we're gonna put some ice in. And as you've heard me mention several times before, when mixing cocktails with ice, you really want to mix them down, and it's not just about getting them to cool down. It's also about mixing the various liquor together and diluting it a little bit with the ice, so that the flavors have an opportunity to open up. And let's see how I'm doing here. The glass is starting to get frosty. That's good. Okay, and I'm going to get I meant to have this ready. I'm going to get an old-fashioned glass. Where are my old-fashioned glasses? There we go. Okay, this is an old-fashioned glass. It just looks like your basic tumbler. Okay, and a strainer. And here we go. Blood Orange Negroni. And look at that. Look at the color of that. Can you see that? Here, I'll move a little bit closer so you can look at the color. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, so let's have a little taste here. Oh, yeah. Fantastic. Okay, so I'll see you on the other side. All right, so here we are. It's Thursday afternoon, and I had to make a mad dash through traffic through downtown LA to get here in time. I know I started a couple minutes late. It's time to relax. So, the Maltese Falcon. I don't know about you, but I'm a huge film noir fan. So whether it's the Maltese Falcon, whether it's Double Indemnity, probably two of the best known film noir, or whether it's a really obscure film noir like A Lonely Place, probably not as obscure as others certainly, but many people have heard of Double Indemnity and the Maltese Falcon, but probably not very many people have heard of A Lonely Place. That's also a Humphrey Bogart movie. You can tell who one of my favorite actors is. The look of these films, the grittiness, the dialogue, the interaction between the characters. So, I mean, I'm nowhere near an expert on film noir compared to Eddie Muller, who is the host of Noir Alley and mounts the various noir film festivals around the country. But I think I got my love of film noir and really detective novels from my father. So one of the things that I inherited from my dad was a collection of very hard-boiled detective stories. So Stephen Marlowe, Richard Prather, A.A. Fair, who is actually, that's a pseudonym for the same writer as the Perry Mason series.
this very sort of rough language, tough guys, femme fatales. It's always intrigued me, and ever since I was a kid. But periodically, I have to come back to the Maltese Falcon. So the Maltese Falcon was written by Dashiell Hammett. Dashiell Hammett is one of the early noir writers. The Maltese Falcon was written in 1930. It's one of his earliest books. And as you can see on the front cover, the name comes from this falcon, statue of a falcon. This is actually, I think, adapted from the movie. It's covered in black enamel, but in reality, the Maltese Falcon was a gift that the Knights of Malta supposedly put together to, I believe it was King Charles, as rental on the island of for the island of Malta, and the rental was one falcon a year. And so the first year, instead of giving him a bird, they gave him this fantastic jewel encrusted statue, right? And that's sort of the impetus for this whole story. And I don't know, I used to have the DVD of the Maltese Falcon, but I went to my box of early 1940s DVDs and the box was empty. So I'm not sure what happened there. But the most famous, there was a version of the Maltese Falcon made in 1931, shortly after the book came out. But the most famous version of the Maltese Falcon was the one where Humphrey Bogart plays the detective, Sam Spade. And that movie came out in 1941. It was directed by John Huston, one of the great, directors of the classic era of Hollywood. And Sam Spade is a detective. He lives and works in San Francisco. And, notwithstanding what San Francisco is today, in its time, San Francisco was perhaps the classic noir city, especially when the fog rolled in, which happens often in San Francisco, and the beautiful buildings there, the streets, the steep streets going up and down, the winding street of Lombard Street, all of these things, very, very evocative of the film noir genre. So Sam Spade is a detective who lives and works in San Francisco. So I've read the book multiple times. I've seen the movie oodles of times. And so I was thinking about this a few weeks ago, which is better? And normally I think what we hear is, oh, the book is always better. And maybe that's true. Certainly, a well-written book is just, it's so good. So I in particular, for example, I love the Nero Wolfe books by Rex Stout, and I read them. I have, I think, 25 of them. And I reread them about once every year or 18 months. They're just so good. And they're detective novels too. But by the time I reread them, I've forgotten what the solution is. And that's a sign of a great detective story, I think, is even if you've read them before, you can read them with equal relish the next time. So right now I'm rereading several of Agatha Christie's books. I just finished The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, one of her earliest books. And I kept thinking, I know who did it. I know who did it. And then I get to the end of it and I was completely surprised by it, even though I'd read the book before. Agatha Christie was such a brilliant writer. that it's just, it's a pleasure to read her books over and over again. Some of her books I've read now 3 or 4 times. So the thing about reading the book is because, typical detective story is going to be anywhere from 150 to around 300 pages. So at least at the rate I read, you're talking about anywhere from 2.5, 3 hours to maybe 6 hours to read a detective novel. So in that length of time, which is obviously much longer than a movie, especially a 1940s movie, you have a lot more time to deal with plot twists, to deal with character development, to deal with just the interplay of the characters. So Sam Spade's, every detective of this genre has a girl Friday, so to speak. And in the case of Sam Spade, it's Effie. And the interaction between Sam Spade and Effie is one of the fascinating aspects of any of the Dashiell Hammett based Sam Spade books, because on the one hand, it seems like there's something going on between them, and yet Sam Spade he's got a girl over here and a girl over there. It's like, how would she possibly put up with, what would probably at best be called, womanizing, if they were together? So that ambiguity between the two of them about their relationship is again, it's so much fun to just see that, or to read how it's played out in the book, because you get much more of that. And also, again, just the interplay of the characters, the immersing in the language of the book. All of that is just so wonderful. Also, the book has a much slower, I don't want to call it a slow pace, because it's not exactly slow, but it's not a frenetic pace. It's a pace appropriate for taking, in the case of the Maltese Falcon, it's about 250 pages, I think. 229 pages, at least in this edition, right? So it takes about 4 or 5 hours to read. And the pacing of the book is appropriate to the length of the book. You don't feel rushed. You don't feel like you're being overwhelmed to absorb it all. It's just you can relax, but really climb into the story and feel intrigued by what's going on. So that's really, I think, the aspect of the book. Now, the movie, first of all, the movie, in addition to its starring Humphrey Bogart, supporting characters include Peter Lorre, who plays another of the characters. I'm trying to think of his name. All of a sudden, I'm going up on his name. But he's also trying to find the Maltese Falcon. But it has one of my all-time favorite actors in it, Sidney Greenstreet, who plays Gutman, otherwise known as the Fat Man. Sidney Greenstreet is nothing short of brilliant in this movie. And he brings the character of Gutman absolutely to life in a way that the book just doesn't. Now, I saw the movie before I read the book for the first time, and Sidney Greenstreet's performance makes the book more enjoyable. I think if I had, I'm trying to remember Gutman's first name. It's not Arthur Gutman. Doesn't matter. Anyway, being able to read the book through the sort of portrayal of Gutman by Sidney Greenstreet, he's just brilliant. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the Maltese Falcon, but maybe have played, maybe have seen Casablanca. So Sidney Greenstreet is also in Casablanca. He plays the owner of the Blue Parrot Cafe, I believe it is. And again, just a brilliant, brilliant performance. By the way, one of the things I most love about Sidney Greenstreet is he did not start his movie career until he was in his 50s, right? And I think the Maltese Falcon was his first movie. and just across the board brilliant. Prior to his movie career, he had a big career in theater. But so the cast of characters. Oh, and the love interest in the movie is Mary Astor, who is, I wouldn't call her beautiful in terms of how we usually think of classic Hollywood beauties, but she has a kind of attractiveness to her, an achievable attractiveness. That's what it is, right? So, most of us are never going to aspire to a Betty Grable, or, in more contemporary terms, a Jennifer Aniston. For men, she's out of our league. But Mary Astor is so beautiful, and yet we can totally believe that a woman like Mary Astor would be interested in us. And that's why I think it's such brilliant casting. She's such a wonderful actress as well. And the character she plays, Bridget O'Shaughnessy, she has several different names during the course of the book and the movie, is so great. And she's so kind of ambiguous, and Mary Astor plays it so well. So first of all, in the movie, you have this wonderful cast of characters. To a person, it is brilliantly cast. So that's number one. The second thing is the whole look of the movie is such classic noir. I don't think it was shot on location, by the way, but if you've been to San Francisco and you've been out on the streets in San Francisco on a foggy night, you would just think that the movie had been shot on location. And there is nothing more classically film noir than black and white and fog, right? Because it creates that kind of sinister background that is just the absolute icon of film noir. And so just the flashing neon signs and the sidewalks and the buildings, everything is the art direction is again, it's superb. It is absolutely iconic. Now the film has faster pacing than the book, because after all, it is a movie. I think the movie is about an hour and a half long, right? So you're taking something that's roughly 4 or 5 hours to read, and you're compressing it down into an hour and a half long movie. And so, they have to leave a lot of things out and kind of speed up what's going on. And yet, like I said, the first time I saw it, I had never read the movie. It made perfect sense. So while they cut a lot of things that happen in the book out, they retain the essence of the story, and you're not sitting there going, wait, what just happened there? You've lost me. You never feel lost. You're mystified as to, wait, who killed Humphrey Bogart's partner, Sam Spade's partner, which happens in the very beginning of the movie. I'm not giving anything away. It happens in the first, I think, 10 pages of the book and the first 5 minutes of the movie, right? And the plot is basically Sam Spade trying to find out who killed his partner, Miles Archer. So you never feel lost, even though you're just not sure who committed the murder, right? And so the pacing is really correct for a movie. And so, the fact that it's faster and leaves things out does not at all detract from the movie. A little more Negroni. And then the impact of the movie. So while there is nothing better than curling up in front of my fireplace, which is right over here, with my electric logs, but they do give off heat because the chimney is damaged, and so I can't put a real fire in it, on this couch with this throw and a nice whiskey or maybe some cognac or whatever on a Friday night, reading a great book like The Maltese Falcon. The impact of the movie to not only in essence hear and like you do in your mind's ear, right, when you're reading a book, but to see it, the impact is so embracing, I think is the word. It's not overwhelming. You feel a part of it. So, and this is one of the things, for example, Sidney Greenstreet being in the movie is he pulls you into the movie in a way that is different than you're pulled into the book. So generally speaking, when I read this book, I read it straight through in one sitting, even if it means I'm staying up until 1 or 2 in the morning, because it is an engrossing book. And there is nothing like a book that you just can't put down. Still, to hear and to see is much more engrossing than to read. And the Maltese Falcon definitely is an engrossing movie. So what's the verdict? Which is better, the book or the movie, right? That's presumably that's what you tuned in to hear me answer that question. I'm gonna keep you in suspense for a minute longer while I have more Negroni. Yeah. If I had to make this again, I would go a little bit lighter on the Campari and let the orange come out a little bit more. It's good, but I went too heavy on the Campari. So, you're going to call me a cop-out. I will tell you, generally speaking, like what you typically hear, I prefer the book to the movie. However, with the Maltese Falcon and another of Dashiell Hammett's famous books, The Thin Man, which is actually a series of movies starring Myrna Loy and William Powell. The book is brilliant, and the movies are brilliant as well. So I don't know if it's just that the books that were written by Dashiell Hammett and the movies that were made from his books are both just so brilliant, it's impossible to determine whether one is better than the other, or if they delight different parts of us or different parts of me. But I reread The Maltese Falcon at least once a year, and I probably watch the movie 2 or 3 times a year. So if I'm watching, some streaming service and I see the Maltese Falcon on it, I'm watching it. Even if I'm coming in partway through it, because at this point I know the plot so well, I don't care that, I haven't seen the first part of it. But to see the characters acting out these brilliant roles written by Dashiell Hammett in the Maltese Falcon, and a lot of it I think has to do with the high quality of the cast: Humphrey Bogart, Peter Lorre, Mary Astor, Sidney Greenstreet, and again with The Thin Man, William Powell and Myrna Loy. Again, so brilliant. And by the way, one of the Thin Man movies, I think it's the first Thin Man movie, also has a very young Jimmy Stewart in it, if you can believe. He plays a bad guy. Oh my gosh, it's so great. So maybe because these movies were cast so brilliantly, the movies absolutely stand up to the books so that you can enjoy both of them, just in different contexts. Now, we're so used to watching movies at home, of course, but there is nothing to supplant seeing the Maltese Falcon in a movie theater with a crowd of people who love film noir and really appreciate all of the various aspects of it. So I will say this: for a stay-at-home enjoyment, in many cases, the book is maybe like this much more enjoyable than the movie, because to watch a movie by myself is just not the same thing as being in the movie theater experience and enjoying it with other people, hearing other people laughing when humorous things are said, hearing other people gasp when certain things happen, and seeing in that big, huge screen the wonderful noir environment that's created in the movie. So comparing the theater experience to sitting home by the fireplace with a whiskey or a cognac, those two, I can't pick one over the other. I'll anytime I hear that the Maltese Falcon is playing in a theater environment, I will go see it. And it overwhelms me every time, even though, like I said, I know the movie so well. So I think that what is the takeaway from this? Well, first of all, if you have not seen film noir, but you like mystery and you like the whodunit challenge, first of all, check out some film noir. It is far and away my favorite genre of films. And I love, by the way, movie musicals. I love movie musicals, but still, film noir is just, there's something about it. It just grips you, right, and won't let go. So if you haven't tried out film noir, and if you like police novels or detective novels, and you haven't read some of the, especially the early more noirish novels, the Dashiell Hammett. Mickey Spillane is already a little bit later, and he's not really noir. He's more of the hard boiled. Dashiell Hammett is probably the quintessential noir writer. Give them a try. See what you think about them. I'm a big fan of detective fiction across the board. So I mentioned Agatha Christie and Rex Stout. So those are more, Agatha Christie is, of course, the sort of classic, almost English drawing room detective fiction. Rex Stout would be sort of the American equivalent of that, because Nero Wolfe almost never leaves his brownstone in Lower Manhattan to solve the cases that he's asked to solve. So there's nothing noir about Agatha Christie or Rex Stout. They are very classic, sort of, like I said, drawing room detective fiction. So, but if you're used to the more contemporary, sort of hard-boiled detective fiction, again, the Mickey Spillane was kind of the beginning of that. James Ellroy, who brilliant, hard-boiled detective novel writer. I was fortunate enough to meet James Ellroy at a book signing many years ago. I forget which one of his books of his he signed for me. It may have been The Black Dahlia. That's one of his great books. He signed the book. I'm digressing now for a moment. He signed the book, Kevin, Die Like a Rabid Wombat, James Ellroy. And I thought, wow, that is just really bizarre. But, his books are very hard-boiled, very bizarre. It wasn't until years and years later I was telling someone about this, and they said to me, well, don't you get it? I said, don't I get what? And the person explained to me, wombats can't get rabies. go. There was a blip there. For some reason, it blipped out. So, to get away from business, to get away from professional stuff, there is nothing better than the Maltese Falcon. And in this case, book or movie, you're going to be equally enthralled, I think. So, a toast to Dashiell Hammett, to Humphrey Bogart, Mary Astor, Peter Lorre, and especially to Sidney Greenstreet, and to you, my viewers, a little bit more Negroni. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Hope you had a nice cocktail while we chatted. And this is my last show for the week. So I do wish you a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of the week, which only encompasses about a day. And then we're already at the weekend. Next week, just a quick reminder. So on Monday is going to be a special Labor Day episode. Okay, so please tune in for that on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. On Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time is my show, Business Lessons from the Military. And on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time is the next edition of People Making Money. And then for Jiggers' Place, I'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll share another cocktail and talk about all the things that make life worth living that don't involve business and professions. So again, thanks so much for joining me. I love it that I get to spend a half an hour or so each week with you, kind of coming back to the roots of the Way to Wow shows, and hopefully easing you into the end of the week a little more enjoyably, and hopefully setting you up for a restorative weekend. So signing off as I always do, Marie, darling, you are my belle. If life had been a noir movie, you would have been my femme fatale, and I would have been protecting you from whatever nefarious men were out there who wanted to cause you harm. And it would have been my great, great honor to do that. Courage at all